Today we have a very special day. And I always say to myself that every day is a special day if we make it special. And imagine when you are bored or having a bad day, and you say to yourself, this is a very special day. Never before in history, never after. It's the only time it will come. Your days will become special, your weeks become special, your months become special, and your life becomes special, right? You live a special life. Say hi.
Hi.
Very good. And also, we have a guest speaker. I wouldn't say guest because he is from this class, John. How many of you went to Italy? Anybody went to Italy? He did. And he will share with us his experience, so at least we see what he saw or parts of what he saw and some of his thoughts and joys and experiences. So would you please give him a warm welcome?
Hey, good evening. How's everybody doing? Okay, so as you said, I'm going to be doing a presentation on my trip to Italy. It's a very short and simple presentation. Basically going to be talking about the technology side of it. And I pick out two things from, let me go ahead and unmute this, technology old and technology new as it pertains to Italy. Okay, just as some background information, I went in 2015, I went with Dr. Melton as a faculty-led study abroad experience to Florence, Italy. There were actually two courses going on. One was with Eastern and the other was with Florence University of the Arts, located there in Florence. With Florence University of the Arts, I studied Italian history, culture, architecture, and technology. Most of this was the old technology and the present technology. But with Eastern, I looked at the automobile industry in Italy. Okay, so Italy is the birthplace of the Renaissance, and our group was able to see the history of technology up close and personal. Okay. I'm going to show you just some pictures of the trip. I picked these out because they meant something to me, or to the topic I'm showing you here. So you're going to see a lot of architecture, and you're going to see a lot of art. And I show a lot of art because these pieces are famous pieces, and like I told the other class, I studied a lot of humanities and art in my other colleges, and for me to see it on paper is one thing, or you see it on a postcard is one thing, but then whenever you go and you're able to see this artwork, this painting, or this sculpture, that to me was just a really special experience. So, I put this picture of Italy up there because this is my view every evening and every morning. We would watch the sunrise and set on one of the bridges on the River Arno, and I mean, it was just a great way to start or end a day, or start it or end a night.
The sun sets the same point?
No. we would turn accordingly. Yeah, all the pictures that you'll see here I took, except the cartoons. I did not take.
What was the building to the right?
That is the government building in Italy, and that's another thing. If you look at these, that building there, it was built in the 14th century. So it's just like to be there and to see something that old still being an important monument. That again is really a special experience.
And the one to the left?
To the left, I believe that is the Duomo in Italy. I mean in Florence, but I was looking at so many architecture ones that just from this picture I couldn't tell you the facade. Okay, this statue is of Lacuna and his sons, and again, I put this in here because it's a really old Greek sculpture that I've studied and analyzed for different classes, and so whenever I got to see it, it was just like, it was, I don't know, an awesome experience. It was like seeing, I don't know, seeing a celebrity. You know, you see him on TV, but then whenever you get to see it in real life, it's just something different. Here's a picture of Rome. We were in Vatican City there, so you can just see some mountains in the distance, and that is a picture of a city that is vastly different than anything I'd ever been in, so threw that in there. Everybody should know this, recognize it. Okay, I want you to wave at me like Dr. Wabi has us do. Wave at me if you've ever eaten horse meat.
What?
Horse meat. Nobody? Okay, I don't know. There are a lot of countries represented here. This shredded meat salad on the right is actually horse. And Italy is one of the many countries in Europe that still eats horse. So whenever you see it on the menu, you can't not order it. I mean, like, horse. So a couple of my buddies and I, we split that. It was not worth the money, but it was worth the cultural experience. And to be able to say, you know, I've eaten horse, it's a conversation starter, let me tell you. A lot of people ask me what it tasted like. It tasted like imitation bacon, if you've ever had imitation bacon. So that makes me wonder what they put in imitation bacon. Okay. So here, again, a lot of architecture. We went and visited the Leaning Tower in Pisa. And again, you see this all the time, t-shirts, whatever. To be there and be inside it and be on top of it, first of all, you can really tell it's leaning whenever you're standing on the top of it, looking over the edge. That gives you a kind of a dizzy effect there. But no, it was a fun time. This obviously is Lamborghini. We went to the museum, and I'll talk about more of that later. So here's another cultural experience. The Venice canals, they don't go by car there, as many people know. It's like all boats and ferries and gondolas. Okay, again, more art or sculptures that you see a lot everywhere except in real life, and whenever you get that chance to, it's just, you got to put it in the slideshow. Here, we're in a palace in Milan, and you can see in the background there, it's kind of an old brick building, and that is an ancient palace from Milan, but inside of it, you can see the actual picture. In the courtyard gardens is a cafe, and I put this in here because it's taking the old architecture and then putting in something new there. And what I liked about it is the walls and ceiling, they're all glass. So even though you're there in that modern cafe, you can still experience the history of where you are. So.
What are these small dolls?
That was for scaffolds. So they would put scaffolding in there, and so they'd put a couple beams on there, lay down a platform, and then they could either build or climb. So. Now I'm glad I remembered that. I thought I'd have to answer. Here again, the Birth of Venus. It's a famous painting I've analyzed, and I lived 5 minutes from that, so I was able to see it a couple times. Again, it's just culturally and I guess exciting. Okay, this is my backyard basically. I lived here, and right behind my apartment was a fort, and it was free for me to go up in the fort, and I could just look at Florence from the gardens there. And the gardens that were in my basically backyard, I was there for 2 hours my first visit, and I don't think I visited half of it. It's just, okay, some old technology. The Duomo. Okay, the Duomo in Italian is the main cathedral that is in your city. So that is, if you type in the Duomo, you're probably going to get that or the Duomo in Milan, but it's any main cathedral in an Italian city. What makes this Duomo special is its dome, that you can see there. Okay, so I outlined some reasons as to why it's special, but I thought it'd be easier and a little more enjoyable to watch a video on it. So this is just a short video.
Imagine this. It's 1418 in Florence, Italy. You've been challenged to build a great dome for the Santa Maria del Fiore, one of the grandest cathedrals ever built. And you have no formal architectural training, No pressure, right? For Filippo Brunelleschi, a goldsmith and clockmaker, it was the opportunity of a lifetime. He considered the challenge carefully. Then proposed a daring plan, using methods that experts don't fully understand even to this day. At the time, domes were often built as semicircles. But the town fathers required that Brunelleschi build an 8-sided dome that would be even taller and stronger. It would also have no central support system to hold it up during construction. Even worse, the dome's base was an imprecise octagon with no true center. But Brunelleschi had that covered. There would be 2 domes instead of 1, an inner and an outer shell, held together by giant brick arches and interlocking rings of stone and wood. The rings would work like hoops on a barrel, keeping the dome from expanding outward. To move heavy loads hundreds of feet up, Brunelleschi designed ingenious new machines, including an ox-driven hoist and massive lifting devices far ahead of their time. So, revolutionary design? Check. Groundbreaking engineering? Check. Can-do attitude? Check. But with no central support system, how would he actually build it? First off, the masonry would have to support itself during construction. To do this, Brunelleschi placed the bricks in a herringbone pattern, which spiraled to the top of the dome, with vertical bricks acting as bookends to hold the others in place. They laid about 1 row a week, giving the mortar time to cure. At this rate, the dome grew at a snail's pace of about 1 foot a month. But perhaps most puzzling is how he was able to place the bricks with such precision. Many experts agree that he used guide ropes. One theory states that ropes ran from a flower pattern on the work platform that showed exactly where the bricks should go. Another has ropes running from the dome's center, tracing a series of cones that grew smaller as they ascended to the top. Still another suggests a different arrangement of central ropes and wooden templates. However it was done, it worked. The 8 faces of the dome met at the top precisely, just as Brunelleschi had planned. In all, it took 16 years to complete the dome. When he died in 1446, Brunelleschi left behind no sketches and no details as to exactly how he achieved his masterpiece. Today, it remains the largest masonry dome in the world, more than 500 years after it was built.
All right, so another thing I want to point out is this is what the cathedral looked like for over 100 years, because nobody could conceptualize how to make a dome that large and have it stand on its own. And so this guy, Brunelleschi, he was able to become the architect and the engineer and in fact the contractor to get it done. And like they showed, he invented different contraptions to lift things up. He wanted to cut time of having to travel down and hoist things up one at a time. Another thing, as the contractor, he had to work with Italian workers, and as you know, like, wine is a big staple in Italy. So on work breaks, people would be getting a little too into their wine and they wouldn't be able to work very well. So he implemented ideas of watering down wine and having the lunch break on the roof instead of on the ground where most people would have thought to. So instead of going down, eating, coming back up, they would just stay up, and because they didn't have elevators, they'd have to climb stairs or be lifted. So that was just something interesting from the past that shows a lot of innovation for the time. Okay, new technology. Okay, one of my favorite stops was to the Lamborghini Museum and Production Facility. Unfortunately, I wasn't allowed to take pictures of the production facility, but I want to say, like, I've been to different places like Caterpillar and ADM. And I know ADM doesn't produce anything like Caterpillar or Lamborghini, but from all those, Lamborghini is the cleanest and the most efficient I've ever seen. Like, everybody is doing a task at a nice pace. They're all in sync with each other. And the quality there were ladies in a row all hand stitching the leather seats. So it was an interesting experience there too. Okay, I was lucky enough that while I was in Italy, the World's Fair in Milan, the 2015 Expo, was also going on. So with the university in Florence, we were able to go and stay in Milan for a weekend and visit the World's Fair. The theme was Feeding the Planet, Energy for Life, and 145 countries happened to participate that year, and so it was fun. We spent a day there, and again, it's feeding the planet, so they had plenty of food you could eat. They had all sorts of ice cream bars and cafes everywhere. So, okay, so that was my trip to Italy. Do you guys have any questions?
How was the pizza?
Oh, it was delicious. Yeah, I actually lived above one of the, I didn't know it until week 2, but I lived above one of a world-renowned pizzeria, Gusta Pizza. So we ate that a lot.
Different than pizza here.
Yeah, a lot different than the pizza here.